I'm joined in studio by Zeenat Osman. She's a child counsellor at the Saartjie Baartman Centre for Women and Children. She's going to speak to us about the issue of child-on-child violence. Zeenat, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, your organisation has reported a spike or a noticed increase in violence that's sibling on sibling. Will you explain this to us, please?
Yeah, what we find is that a lot of the older siblings are given parental roles because the mothers are either working or single parents, or there is other conflicts that parents just really need the children to assist. However, what we find is that when these older children are given parental roles, they do tend to become frustrated with the responsibility that they have over the younger siblings, and because the younger siblings tend to feel that they are not the parents, and therefore they don't want to listen to them, and that leads to the violence between siblings.
Now, of course, when we're speaking about two children,
Yeah.
you never want to make the older sibling seem like a perpetrator of a crime in this instance, because really they are just subject to their circumstance.
Yeah, we don't want to see them as perpetrators, and obviously they also don't want to necessarily violate towards the younger siblings. However, what they do find is the frustration. So now they speak and they don't get the reaction from the younger siblings that they would like, and then they revert to corporal punishment by hitting or shoving around or pushing.
And this is what you are dealing with at the centre at the moment.
Yes, currently we find a lot of that, and it is very frustrating because the older siblings, that the schooling system has become more tiring. There's a lot more work that they need to be doing, and therefore they have all these extra things that they already have to do, and then they don't find time for that. So they also then get the flack from the schooling side because they don't have enough time to finish their own things.
So are you saying, or what is your recommendation to parents when it comes to issues like this? Should you be putting another child in charge of your younger child? What are the options here?
I think that it is difficult, especially in your lower socioeconomic status groups, where some people don't have the facilities or funds to send their children to aftercare, and therefore they rely heavily on the eldest child. However, they have to look at the maturity of the child and the willingness of the child to want to look after the younger sibling, because I'm sure that there are family members or community members that is willing to assist if you just go and seek the assistance from them.
Zeenat, I want you to talk to us about that frustration that you mentioned earlier, that the older sibling could feel either frustration or resentment towards the younger child in being put into this position. Talk to us a little bit more about that frustration. Is it common?
It is common. It's exacerbated by the fact that when the parents then do come around and they have to hear the story as to what has happened and what has transpired and why there was some fibbing or sibling violence between the two children, is that the older child then find that the mothers don't believe them. For them it's like, okay, you're the eldest, you need to understand, be more patient, but they're still children in themselves. So it's difficult for them to then have this patience and then to find this caring nature towards the younger siblings, because the younger siblings then also know how to manipulate the situation and twist them around.
I think it's so important to note what you're saying here, and that's remembering that older sibling is a child themselves, so they don't necessarily have the coping mechanisms that an adult would.
Yeah, and the skills and the knowledge and the know-how as to how to look and take care of a younger child. It is exceptionally difficult for them because they in themselves still need the guidance as to how to look after themselves before they can look after somebody else.
Now, are you finding that often the older sibling isn't getting as much attention or care from their parents as the younger sibling is, purely because they're meant to be sort of a mini adult or mini parent?
You know, on the part of the parents, we find sometimes that the parents actually think that now they get a lot more attention because they are given this role and they're in a more higher esteem position than the younger one. But for them it's so daunting because they don't always know also what is the right thing to do. So they find that they still need a whole lot of guidance, and they also then want their parents to guide them and be parents for them, you know.
Is there a way for us as a greater South African society to step in and help or address the situation? Because as you mentioned, it's a much bigger issue here, and that's due to a lot of people's socioeconomic status in this country. It's just not possible to be at home with your children all the time or to pay for somebody professional to look after them.
I think that there are some schools that they do try to have this aftercare services available to the kids, and they do it in the forms of maybe extra classes, extra tuition for the kids. But I think that what we can do is we have to really come together and say that we are looking after each other, and if we want to look after each other, we have to look after our kids because they are the future, and that they need the support from adults, and they need to be kept busy so that they don't fall through the cracks or fall into other socioeconomic ills that we're having in our societies.